I'm only used to getting filmed and by major motion pictures, so I have to get used to this little webcam. I'm a yoga teacher actually, but I haven't been doing it lately. I've been so overloaded with things that I stopped doing yoga like a few weeks ago. I've been doing it since I was a teenager, so I'm not one of those faddist types. I've been always doing it, but and swimming also. But there's some special nearby, so I went over there and I was like, okay. So that was, I like to keep active physically, because if you're partying and working all the time, you have to also take care of your body, I don't sleep much. I usually sleep 4 hours a night, and which isn't such a bad thing. But then if you don't sleep, you have to at least take care of your body, eat well, and sort of exercise. Well, I guess I started doing this maybe like when I graduated from journalism school. I went back to school for journalism in 2000. I graduated in 2005, but their philosophy was you can sleep when you're dead. And I'm not dead yet, hopefully, but I kind of decided like, okay, if I have a full-time job, but I want to do my art and I want to write, and something's going to have to go. So I stopped doing house cleaning and I stopped sleeping, and I figured it was worth it. I mean, in the last 3 or 4 years, I've published over 150 articles, Some people don't do that even if they don't do anything else. So I just figured I'm just sleeping. I have to sleep a little bit, but so I take this Adderall because I have ADHD anyway, so that helps. But I also don't feel like if I'm doing a project and have a deadline, I can go on for hours without sleeping. And I tend to be a procrastinator. I always wait till the last minute. So every Sunday night I have a deadline of Monday morning, and I usually stay up all night and write. I recommend it. Waiting till the last minute is the best way to get something done. Well, I think it's true that when I was in Berlin, I noticed it was very, even though they say that Germans are extremely, punctual, organized, blah, blah. But I did find that in Berlin, it's a more relaxed pace than in New York. Like what I liked about Berlin is that all the people hang out together and they don't feel like they're in a rush. They suddenly feel like, in New York, people start looking at their watch, even if they're close friends of yours, and they're like, well, I have to get going. It's always, I have to get going. And I hate that myself. It's like, I mean, sometimes but in New York, you can't help it because you have so many commitments that you have to do that. But in Berlin, it seems like one day we hung out all day long with these other people. And sometimes I was starting to get sick of some people after a while, but it was more relaxed, In New York, it is very rushed all the time. I mean, I have a very bad temper, and I'm always yelling and screaming at taxi drivers. And this morning I went to get bagel and coffee in the pizza place, and I was in the wrong line, and I started screaming at the guy. I mean, I kind of enjoy having a bad temper, so it kind of keeps my blood flowing. So in that sense, it's okay. But still, it's like I'm in constant the state of anger. A lot of the stuff is in Brooklyn now. And it's hard to get to from Manhattan. So you either have to, the taxi is like $20 or $30, which is expensive. Or the train, it takes like an hour to get there. But that's where a lot of the parties are, it's in Brooklyn.
And do you do something normal? I mean, or do you just do kind of events and parties and so on? I mean, do you cook?
I
You
cook
don't look
all
like
the time.
you cook.
Oh, yes, I do. That's one of my secrets. I'm Italian-American. I cook wonderfully, actually. I cook every night if I can. I don't like going out because it's too expensive. New York City, the restaurants, it's much cheaper to eat out in Berlin. Of course, there are decent ethnic places here, but I usually eat home. I make, I'm not a vegan. I like steak and I like meat, but I'm an excellent cook, actually. I don't like doing dishes. I do not like mopping, but I'm very good with cooking. Laundry. In case anybody wants to come over for dinner, you'll see. I like German food. I would like to try some of the sausages or the sauerkraut. I got none of that. Nothing. Anyway, back to me.
Is there something with Italian-American women and blonde hair?
Well, I have always been blonde even when I was a child. So, I mean, I do definitely lighten my hair now, but as a child, it was blonde, and I'm 1/4 Irish. So, but I do think that Italian-American women, they like to have a little, they're glam. They're into the glam look, So I would say they do tend to dress better, they look better, and their hair is better. And if blonde is actually a color that I mean, I had red hair for a while, but I feel very depressed whenever I have a dark hair, a brunette, it depresses me. So blonde is what suits me. Well, the thing is, I've really only been taking serious photographs since 2004. I am really a writer and a journalist, and I've always been writing, and also an actor. Started acting when I was a child, but the photography, like the funny thing is, my sister was an artist, and many of my boyfriends were artists, and I always thought, well, let them do the visual arts. I'm the writer here. I'm the actor or whatever. But in journalism school, I took photojournalism, and that was in 2004. And I covered a parade that Hillary Clinton was in. And I immediately joined the paparazzi in the middle of the street. I went right up to her face and got close-ups. And the teacher's like, oh, I'm going to put you in the advanced class, you know. So I immediately loved doing the photography, because writing is boring because you're sitting by yourself at home in front of the computer, and it's depressing. But if you go to do photographs, you're on a location and you get to see the people. And it's even just doing it, even this part of doing it at home on the computer, I find much more relaxing than the writing. Takes so much brain power, you know. I still like to write, but I like the photography better because it's very visual. So I haven't only been doing it recently. I did have some, I went to school as a fashion designer back like 20 years ago. I didn't stick with it. So I have a visual, I've always had a visual eye. I'm very much into fashion and clothes, but the photography is something I've only really taught myself. I did it myself. I mean, yes, I took some in class, but I learned how to do it by going out to clubs and going on events and just doing it and just becoming obsessed with it, because the minute I started doing it, I really enjoyed it, you know. If I look at my early photos that I took in 2006, some of them were good, but a lot of times I've developed an eye of how to take a picture. Even if I'm using a cheap camera, I could go up to somebody and take a decent shot, even with a cheap camera. It's just a question of observation and looking. That's what I found anyway. But I'm a disaster case with the technology, because I'm very careless. I break everything. I have like about 10 cameras, and half of them are broken all the time. I break the flash. I've lost a lot of cameras, but I've broken a lot of them. And but I don't really like to read the instruction booklet. I just go out there, take the pictures, and hope for the best, you know.
What kind of cameras do you use?
Well, I started with Nikon, so I use Nikon. My D300 is broken right now, so I have a D70, a D90. Both of the flashes are broken, unfortunately, but I have an external flash, and I like also carrying with me as a backup the Panasonic Lumix camera or the Leica digital, because they're very good with low light. And since I take pictures in nightclubs, it's good to have, and also to have a backup, because with the little camera, I can take self-portraits. I do all my self-portraits with the small camera, because I can just hold it in front of my face, you know, like that, and it's just, but, and then you also take pictures of me with other people with the little camera. With the bigger camera, it's too hard to hold it at a distance, so all the pictures that you see of me with other people is usually with this. The Panasonic Lumix, I find, is an excellent camera. Some of those small Canon PowerShot film, they're very good for the price. I mean, even cameras you can get for $100 and $200 can take a really good picture sometimes. So a lot of it has to do with the person. I think some people, they don't know how to look at things. They just they're not using their full powers of attention, you know. I think that anybody, if they wanted to, could take excellent pictures, and even with a cheap camera.